Hello everybody. Today we're starting discussion of spinal cord transections part 1. We have learned regarding different ascending and descending track in the previous lectures. With that base of knowledge we'll start and see what happens if there are sections of spinal cord. Now it is based on MCA competency PY 10.6 which says describe and discuss spinal cord, its functions, lesions and sensory disturbances. Already we have discussed regarding functions of spinal cord. Now let's study lesions and what are the sensory disturbances because of the lesions. Now objectives of today's lecture is to see what is the clinical presentation of spinal cord injury, types of spinal cord transections, stages of spinal transection, and what is spinal shock. Spinal cord injury is basically the leading cause of spinal cord injuries by vehicular accidents, violences and sports injuries. The mean age of patient who sustains spinal cord injuries around 33-year-old, that is young generation basically. And men outnumber the women, it is 4:1, as because of the outdoor life they are more prone to injuries. Approximately 52% patients of spinal cord injury cases result in quadriplegia and about 42% leads to paraplegia. Now let's understand what is quadriplegia and paraplegia. Before that we will start our talk with some clinical case history so that you understand what is the clinical importance of knowing spinal cord transections. Case 1 says a 22-year-old young boy was brought to hospital with motorbike accident. On examination, he was conscious, well oriented in time, place and person. He was unable to move his right upper limb and lower limb. Means right side of the body he was unable to move on the clinical examination when he presented. Case 2. A 30-year-old construction worker was brought to hospital with history of fall from first floor. On examination, he was conscious, well oriented in time, place and person. He was unable to move his both lower limbs. On examination, sensations were absent in both lower limb. Case 3. A 20-year-old young college boy was brought to hospital with history of fight with fellow students in the college. On the examination, he was again conscious, well oriented in time, place and person, but he was unable to move his right lower limb and loss of pain while loss of touch sensation on left lower limb. So these brief cases are there. After we complete our talk on spinal cord transection, you have to do a provisional diagnosis and try to find what could be the cause in this, what is site of lesion, what is the type of transection in this. Now let's see how the presentation is there. See, right upper limb, lower limb both are unable to move or not working. This is called as hemiplegia. Hemi means half. Half part of the body is paralyzed, that is hemiplegia. Now both lower limbs are not functioning. He is unable to move both lower limbs. This is labeled as paraplegia. So these are the terminologies which we have to use when writing our history. This patient is having hemiplegia, this patient is having paraplegia. And if only one limb is not working, maybe upper limb, lower limb, whichever, this is called as monoplegia. And if the lesion, you can see if it is here at this level, means at the brainstem, lowest level of brainstem from where spinal cord starts, especially the cervical section from where the upper limb nerves are arising, if they are being damaged, so it can lead to loss of function of all four limbs. So this is dangerous condition called as quadriplegia. Quadri means four, means all four limbs are not known. So these are the terminologies which we should be using while writing a clinical history or discussion of neurological cases. Paraplegia, monoplegia and quadriplegia, and hemiplegia, that is half of the body is not working, either side, maybe right, maybe left. Let's continue and see what can happen. So here, this is complete transection of spinal cord, and here a part of spinal cord is cut. It is called as the hemisection. And sometimes if the person is being pressed from both sides, like in case of vehicular accident, the crushed injury takes place, half you can see, either side can get damaged. So this is called as incomplete transection. So why we should know the history of the patient as monoplegia, paraplegia, sensations? Because a patient is coming with the symptoms only. Now from the symptoms, reversely you have to find whether this symptom is matching with hemisection, or it is matching with incomplete section, or it is matching with the complete section. And if suppose only one lower limb is affected, that means damage could be somewhere here only. If both lower limbs are affected, that means damage will be certainly above the level where the both lower limbs are going. So, and if damage is with all four limbs, that means level of lesion will be somewhere higher up. So here I have shown you schematic diagram presentation for transection. This is complete transection, you can see. So it is called as a complete transection of spinal cord. Here I have shown we half part is damaged. So it is hemisection half, and here both lateral halves are damaged. So it is called as an incomplete transection. But when a patient is coming, we may have a permutation combination of different. These are only theoretically we are trying to understand what are the permutation combination. But when patient is coming with clinical symptom, we have to match with the symptom with what could be the possibility in this patient by our clinical examination. So these are called as transection of spinal cord. Now this is very important diagram. Here if you again recall, the spinal cord is divided into four gross sections: cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and below is sacral. So by knowing which part of the body is affected, for example only right lower limb is affected, that means lesion will be somewhere here only. Thorax is spared. So clinically we can start examination, or we can take X-ray of this part only. And if both lower limbs are affected, we can think the lesion is a complete, can be simply a complete transection. And if we found that upper limb, lower limb both are affected, so it is quite possible that lesion is somewhere near cervical, because from cervical there is origin of nerves for the upper limb. So in this way, indirectly we can try to correlate our clinical symptom with level of lesion of spinal cord. Then we can subsequently go for investigation, either X-ray or CT scan or MRI, to more focus and try to locate the site of injury. But clinically, first hand we should know what is the level of injury. So transection of spinal cord, complete, hemisection, and incomplete transection. So these are the three different types of transection of spinal cord. Now let's again refresh our knowledge regarding ascending and descending tract, because these are most important. When we are getting spinal cord lesion, that means tracts are affected. So if you are knowing different tracts with their function, so easily by clinical examination you can try to find what is level of lesion and which tracts are affected. So this we have studied, starting from here going up to the level of medulla, uncross, then second order neuron crossing to opposite side going up to thalamus, from here third order neuron going up to the sensory cortex. So this is our dorsal column tract or posterior column tract. Now this second one, in which from receptor it is going up to the spinal cord. From here second order neuron starts, crosses to opposite side, goes up to thalamus. From here third order neuron starts and goes in the sensory cortex. So this is our spinothalamic tract, which is carrying sensation of pain, temperature, and crude touch. Dorsal column is carrying the sensation of fine touch, vibration, and pressure, stereognosis. So this is the spinothalamic tract. Now this is our descending tract, which is the main, which start from the cortex, ends in the spinal cord, that is a corticospinal tract. Here you can see the bulk of fibers are crossing the opposite side, that is 80%. From right they are going to the left, that is a crossing is there, and this is called as a lateral corticospinal tract, which is supplying our distal group of muscles, that is limbs. And this is the 20% fiber which are uncrossed in the anterior column. So this is the ventral corticospinal tract or anterior corticospinal tract. Now these are supplying bilaterally to the axial muscles, that is muscles which are controlling the body posture. So this is the corticospinal tract. This is our spinal cord, which is very, very crucial. We must revise it every time. Alpha motor neuron, gamma motor neuron. This is our sensory nerve, which is making synaptic connection with alpha motor neuron, and there is a muscle contraction, reflex action, some descending tracts ending on gamma motor neuron, which stimulate muscle contraction indirectly through our muscle spindle, through sensory nerve back to again alpha motor neuron and muscle contraction, and some descending tract which ends directly on alpha motor neuron, they lead to muscle contraction directly. That's why alpha motor neuron is a final common pathway, also called as low motor neuron, and if this gets damaged, we get loss of muscle tone. Now let's see now the stages of spinal cord transection. First and foremost is spinal shock. We'll be seeing it subsequently. Second stage is after some duration of time we get a recovery, that is called as spinal cord reflex recovery. And third, if the recovery phase is not managed properly or if the patient is very bad, he can go into reflex failure. So these are the three stages of spinal cord transection: spinal shock, reflex recovery, and rarely, if the patient is very bad condition, he goes in reflex failure. Now first we'll see what is spinal shock. In all vertebrates, transection of spinal cord is followed by a brief period of spinal shock, in that during which all the spinal responses are profoundly depressed. All reflexes are stopped below level of lesion. Subsequently, after a certain period of time, reflex response returns and becomes hyperactive. The duration of spinal shock is proportional to degree of encephalization of the motor functions. In frogs and rats, that is in lower animals, it lasts for only few minutes. In dogs and cats, it lasts for 1 or 2 hours. In monkeys, which are nearest our ancestors, it is for few days. And in human beings, where we are having good encephalization, it is minimum 2 weeks. That means if a patient is coming with spinal cord injury, he will have loss of all the reflexes below level of lesion for at least 2 weeks. After that, he may start recover depending on degree of damage. So this first period in which all the reflexes are lost is called as a spinal shock. Now let's see one after other one. So first, in the spinal shock, we have to check whether cortex is normal or not. So when a patient is coming to a casualty with some neurological problem, first you have to take a history from him, talk with him, whether he is able to talk, whether he is understanding, whether he knows his name, time, place, person. So in this way, first we check the higher functions. So if higher functions are normal, it says that there is no cortex lesion. So that is a safeguard to us. So we can say that the patient is having brain is normal, cortex is spared, so there is no hemorrhage or damage to the brain. So most likely, if the patient is having any neurological symptoms, they may be with the spinal cord only. So first you have to check is higher functions. So higher functions are normal in case of spinal shock or spinal cord injury. Now this is our ascending tracts. This is our from medulla transfer, that means it is a dorsal column tract which is carrying the touch sensation, fine touch. These are the cross tract immediately crossing at spinal cord, that is our spinothalamic tract. Now this is the lesion. You can see now I have shown there is a complete transection takes place. So it is a complete transection of spinal cord. So obviously when transection is complete, both from here, cross, uncross, all are damaged. So what we will observe in this patient, there is loss of all sensations below level of lesion. So that is a second sign of spinal shock. First is higher functions are normal. Second is, here you can see loss of all sensations below level of lesion. So irrespective of side, if that is a complete transection, both side right as well as left, you will get loss of all sensations below level of lesion. Now regarding the motor system, corticospinal tract, you can see from right they are going to left, from left they are going to right. Like this crossing is there. But we can see if it is a complete, this is the complete transection, what will happen in this? Loss of all motor activities below level of lesion. Whatever crossing is there, that is at the level of here, medulla. But we are getting damage at the spinal cord. So whatever are there, there is loss of all motor activities below level of lesion. So in complete transection, you get, in the spinal shock period, you get loss of all motor activities below level of lesion. Now it depends what is level of lesion. If it is below thorax level, that is at the lumbar, you will get paraplegia, both lower limbs are lost. And if lesion is at the level of cervical or above just above the cervical lesion, you may have all four limbs may get affected, all four limbs are unable to move, that is called as quadriplegia. Now one of the very important symptoms, that is the blood pressure. We know that it is controlled by autonomic nerves. So this, our autonomic nerves are starting and ending here, so which are controlling blood pressure between T1 to L2. In T1 to L2 there is supply of autonomic nerves to all the autonomic organs. So if the level of lesion is at T1, blood pressure will be decreased, because autonomic control goes off. Autonomic control is coming from limbic system, hypothalamus. So if we get loss of connection from there, blood pressure will decrease. If lesion is at this, below the level of L2, lesion is there, that means autonomic nerves are spared. They will have their normal control coming from the hypothalamus and limbic system. So blood pressure will be normal. So you have to check blood pressure of the patient. If blood pressure is normal, it will show that the lesion will be somewhere below thoracis. It is around L1, L2 level or below the L2 only. So that means if paraplegia is there and blood pressure is normal, so lesion is somewhere below the thoracis level. And if blood pressure is decreased, it indicates that it is somewhere at the cervical, means above T1 lesion is there. So in this way we will try to correlate. And if lesion is in between this two, so we will have a blood pressure fluctuation takes place, because some nerves are spared, some are there. For example, if lesion is here, some of the nerves are being controlled by higher center, remaining control is gone. So we will have a fluctuation in the blood pressure. So fourth sign of spinal shock is blood pressure changes. So now in the spinal shock, higher functions are normal, all sensations below level of lesions are lost, all motor activities below level of lesions are lost. Blood pressure level, it depends on the lesion. Below L2, blood pressure is normal. Above T1, you will get hypotension. In between T1 to L2, blood pressure will be fluctuating. Again, the bowel bladder control will depend on site of lesion. So the sacral nerves are controlling bowel bladder and thoracic end. So if you get fluctuation, so from this clinical signs and symptoms, we will try to correlate what is the level of lesion in spinal cord and what is type. Now, what is the cause of spinal shock? It is basically cessation of tonic bombardment of spinal neurons by excitatory impulses in the descending pathways play a major role in development of spinal shock. In addition, spinal inhibitory interneurons that are normally themselves inhibited may be released from this descending inhibition to become disinhibited. This in turn would inhibit the motor neurons. So here we are completing first part of spinal cord transections. We have seen clinical presentation spinal cord injury. They will come with a sensory as well as motor symptoms. Motor symptoms may be monoplegia, paraplegia, hemiplegia or quadriplegia. And sensory symptoms may be loss of all sensations, maybe one part of the body sensations are lost, right side, left side or one limb, depending on level of lesion and types. In complete transection, we'll have a below level of lesion, all symptoms, all the sensations are lost. We have seen types of spinal cord transection. We have seen the stages. There are 3 stages. First is spinal shock, which we have discussed in detail today. Second, reflex recovery, we'll be discussing in the subsequent lecture. And reflex failure again we'll see in the subsequent lecture. So today we have learned in detail regarding the spinal shock. So here we complete the part 1 of spinal cord transection. In the next talk we'll see the other stages of spinal cord transection and how to manage the patient. Thank you.